Welcome to the Recover You podcast. I'm Kylene.
And I'm Patrick.
We are a couple in recovery
from sex addiction
and betrayal trauma. Together, we share our story to encourage you on your journey. It's here that we talk about sex addiction, betrayal trauma, mental, emotional, and physical health, faith, and anything and everything needed to recover you to your most authentic self that God created you to be. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Recover You. Today is a solo episode with me, Kylene, so welcome back. I thought today I would just go through some listener submitted questions and answer those for you today. So we're going to talk about what the role of the partner is after discovery, so the betrayed partner. We are going to talk about empathy versus restitution letters, and we are also going to talk about the addict's behavior versus their attitude. So again, I always encourage you to work with somebody one-on-one. When I get these questions, I do my best to answer them, but they are also very generalized, and I want to make sure you know that this does not constitute personalized coaching or therapy. So I only have pieces of the information with questions, right? So I do my best to sort of give answers that would generally apply, but your situation is very unique always. So make sure you're talking to somebody that understands all the details of what's going on in your life. And then if you are a betrayed partner that needs more support and you have not found somebody to work with, check the show notes. There are links in there to our website. There are links in there to the What's Next course, which I will reference that a little bit later because that will have a lot of answers to a lot of the questions that everybody has. It's sort of like I tried to answer all of the foundational information that everybody going through this needs. And so that course is $127. It is on recoveryoucoaching.com and it is available to support you. All right, so let's start with the first question. This is about setting boundaries with specifics. So is deleting apps enough? Should the betrayed partner change passwords? Should the recovering partner share all passwords to electronics? So let me sort of break all this down. Setting boundaries with specifics. I think that is really, really important. Okay, so one of the things that comes up a lot with in my coaching sessions and working with betrayed partners is this idea, this question, this worry, this fear of what is my role when I find out that my partner has lied to me, when they have an addiction, when, whatever it is that you are discovering and or they are confessing. And a lot of the questions really sort of circle around this idea of, I don't want to parent my partner and or I feel really uncomfortable stepping into this position that feels a little more controlling, a little more dominating, a little more in charge. And I totally get that. And the reality is it is uncomfortable. So someone I was talking with recently, we were having this discussion in the language of the masculine versus the feminine. So everyone, male and female, has masculine and feminine energies inside of them. And in a relationship that is well balanced, you're going to have a partner, usually the male, that exudes more masculine energy, right? And usually the female is going to exude more of the feminine energy when it's a very, very safe, relaxed, well balanced relationship, right? But when we go through something like betrayal, it's very normal, very natural, and actually I would even say very healthy for a period of time that the betrayed partner steps into the masculine. Now, while that feels uncomfortable, I think that's an indicator of, hey, maybe this isn't where we want to live, right? And that's where we have to put timelines on things. We can't keep extending the timelines and stepping into this position and micromanaging everything and controlling everything. But for a period of time, it is very important. Uncomfortable, we don't like it, and very important. And I think sometimes you have to think about it this way. Someone that is engaging in unhealthy patterns is just that. They're unhealthy. Their patterns are not they're not doing good things in their life. The way their brain is working right now is not clear. It is not mature emotionally. It is not adult in a lot of ways, emotionally and sexually and in terms of consequences, right? So when someone lives in a world where there is fantasy, where there is addiction, where there is compulsion, they sort of, that section of their life is living in just fakeness. It's the fake world. There's, it's like a game in some ways. And you as the betrayed partner are over here deeply rooted in reality. And so you have a gift that you can give your addicted partner, and that is the ability to pull them into reality with your clarity, with your boundaries, and with your high expectations, and connecting them to resources. And that's where I say, the betrayed partner, if you want to use the language stepping into the masculine of taking charge, connecting them, getting them, setting the high boundaries, pushing them in their recovery, that is really, really important. And often when somebody is coming from addiction, but they want to heal, they need that, and they actually appreciate and like that you're taking on that role. It's a good thing in situations where both partners are working towards recovery with intentionality. Now, here is the flip to that. This is not a role that the betrayed partner should take on forever. In fact, it should be a fairly limited role. So I would say probably 3 to 6 months after the betrayed partner has accessed the resources for herself. So whether that's a year into it, like maybe you were trying other things and then you found this process and you realized, oh, there's something like a full therapeutic disclosure and polygraphs and all these things, right? Once the betrayed partner is aware of the process of recovery and aware of these resources and CSATs and who their partner should go to, I would say about 3 to 6 months, maybe a year max, is sort of the amount of time that a betrayed partner would sort of step into this role of quote unquote taking charge or leadership or masculine energy or, whatever word you want to sort of utilize there. And I view that very, very much as a loving, kind thing to do. The person with bad behaviors and the person with compulsive patterns and the person with addictive tendencies or full-on addiction needs help. And you have the more adult, more mature, more reality side of things that you have the ability to help them. And so I think that is one way to help them is by providing all these resources. And then once they have them within a fairly short period of time, it is their responsibility and job and obligation to take that on themselves and to take that burden off of you. So once the addict has the resources, they will show you very, very quickly, like within months, what their level of commitment is to this process, how much they want to internalize it, how much they want to take charge, and how serious they really are. When it's important, we get things done. And so once they have access to the resources, once they hear what your very clear boundaries are, do they take it on themselves? Do they create their schedules? Do they go to group? Do they communicate to you? And then once they are in sobriety and stability in their own life, that should very quickly continue to grow and morph and shift into supporting you, the betrayed partner, emotionally and empathetically and learning about your side in the trauma. And so this should be a fairly quick process. Like I said, max probably 1 year after you guys have been introduced to the process and the resources and the books and the podcasts, et cetera. So I want to sort of introduce it and start it with that concept because a lot of women will struggle with this idea of, I don't want to parent my partner. But in reality, that's what they need. That's what they need. And so if we are going to choose to see if reconciliation is possible, it is an unfortunate and uncomfortable thing that's a little bit of our job for a period of time. And it should absolutely not be our job for a long period of time, like the rest of forever. But it is something that we are capable of giving them. And I think it's important to do. And so, like I said, we both have the masculine and feminine. The feminine, the more relaxed, the soft, the gentle, that comes back out over time as trust is rebuilt. And that takes time. That takes time. So I wish that this wasn't it's not comfortable. I wish we didn't have to do this. But if reconciliation is on the table, yes, the woman is going to take up the sword. The woman is going to take up the leadership position. The woman is going to be the one sort of quote unquote in charge. And for some of us, it just feels like, oh, this isn't the right balance. And you know what? It's not, because this is not healthy right now, right? This is not supposed to happen. We're supposed to be two healthy, adult, mature people supporting each other. But right now, there's one person that needs more support. And if we were in that position, we would hope that they would take that leadership position and help us, right? So it's a little bit of our role as the partner to step into that, and that's important to think through. Okay, so that, and again, it should go away over a period of time. All right, so going back to the specific questions, now that I've sort of laid that foundation of our role and kind of how that fits in, setting boundaries with specifics. Is deleting apps enough? This is a super practical, very detailed question. Yes and no, right? So there's a couple layers to this. Deleting apps, there's ways that you like delete apps, and then there's ways that you delete accounts, right? So if you took Instagram, for example, you can delete the app off your phone, but you can still have the account and access it from a laptop, right? So if you're talking about social media, a lot of times it's better to delete an account. So if it was something like Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or something that was specifically utilized in the bad behaviors, and maybe their algorithm is like totally messed up now, it's better to just get rid of the account, in my opinion. Now, the other layer to this question is, deleting things versus having blockers versus, someone being able to live in the world, being exposed to things and making the good decisions, right? Yes and no. So again, early on, I always encourage the highest walls, the highest boundaries, the highest standards. Life is going to stink for a little while, but that is better, right? Like go the first 90 days to 6 months to whatever with really, 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 really high safeguards in place. Because why, when we are just starting something out, would we make it harder for ourselves to succeed? So yeah, you can delete apps and keep the internet on your phone and, just say, oh, I should have the self-control. But, how has self-control worked for this person in the past, right? So let's set the guardrails. Let's set the walls high. You delete accounts. You put blockers on your phones. We like the Canopy app, but there's also other ways to do it. We actually we have Apple phones, and so we primarily use the iPhone parental blockers, and those are actually quite good. And then one person has the passcode, and there's a lot that you can do with that. So we primarily use that, but set the guardrails high, right? Like get rid of access to the materials and make it very difficult to access, right? And then while you're doing that, engage in the things that help you get into sobriety, regulate emotions, and learn that feeling bored is okay, learn that feeling empty a little bit and anxious a little bit is okay, and how do I regulate that? And then also know, I think it's really important for addicts to understand, like that first 90 days minimum is crucial. And I don't know that people talk about it enough, like what you might experience in that period of time. Like you need to know that by the time you get to 90 days, your brain is going to begin rebalancing your neurochemicals. So if you can make it through that process, you're more likely to actually get to homeostasis, and that's where things are going to become easier. So, you're coming down from something that just flooded your system with things like dopamine over and over and over and over and over again. And then when you add technology on that, like even if you didn't have a porn addiction or compulsion or anything on top of it, technology, like we get the dopamine hits as humans just scrolling through TikTok, right? Every little video that comes up and is interesting, boop, little dopamine hit, boop, boop, boop. And it's like so quick, right? So when you're detoxing from something like masturbation and then constant pornography use, and then you're, adding on to it the layer of quick dopamine hits that you have with technology, and you're taking all of that out all of the same time, like you got to understand your brain is going to go through a rebalancing phase. You're probably going to feel more irritated. You're going to feel more tired. You're going to feel more overwhelmed. You're going to feel more lonely. You're going to feel more empty. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel all of these things. And if you understand that it's important for you to go through this detox withdrawal period so that your life gets easier over time and you have more self-control and you feel more grounded and happy, it is like any healing journey, like any growth journey, it's generally more uncomfortable up front, right? So yes, when you're thinking about deleting apps versus putting blockers on or, whatever it might be, like the basic version versus the extreme version. I think it's so much better to put the boundaries and put the guardrails and put the safety measures up super, super, super high in the beginning. I just think that's reasonable. And if somebody wants to heal, they're not going to question that. Unless it has something to do with I need to access XYZ for my work, right? Like my work laptop, I have to have internet on it, right? But we've even talked about that in other episodes. There are people that will go to their IT department at their work and say, hey, this is a problem I have. I don't want to be accessing it on work computers. Can you maybe set up something from the server to, keep it locked down. And any business is going to go, yeah, we don't want you accessing that on our computer, right? Sure, absolutely. Let's lock that down, right? See, they're usually very receptive and supportive of that stuff. So at home, you can have personalized blockers. You can use parental controls. At work, you can ask your IT department for some support, and usually they're very happy to do that. So I think there's levels to that question, right? The other aspect of this, setting boundaries with specifics, I think it's really, 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 really important for the betrayed partner to get extremely clear on what it is that they need to feel safe and what they need in order to stay in this relationship. And then we've got to communicate that very clearly. So this is where one of the areas I'm going to reference the What's Next course. There's a whole module in there about boundaries, how to think through them, and how to communicate them. And it's really, really important that we learn how to communicate them, because we want to make sure that if we're going to say something is a non-negotiable or something is a boundary for me, then that means that I have a response to that. And also, if I'm going to have a boundary and have a response, it's going to be really important that my partner knows that, so none of us are surprised, right? So that module is in there to kind of help you think through all of those things. And then, of course, if you're working with a coach or practitioner, we can help you with the specifics, like understanding what your partner's patterns were and what you need, and how you guys communicate and what's going to be specific to you. Okay, so I hope that answers a little bit of the first question. Should the betrayed partner change passwords? It just depends, right? I don't know the context of that specific situation. Like I mentioned, sometimes you're going to be deleting whole accounts. Sometimes if it's like, let's say it's a shared Facebook account and you guys have agreed that they have access on the couch when you're next to them, then maybe it's something that you have the password to, and then you hand the computer over and you're next to them, right? Like something like that would be reasonable. One of the things that we did, we did a bunch of things that were, I think, somewhat unusual. We actually reached out to like a reputation restoration company, and I don't know the name of it, but I think that's probably what you could Google. And they basically scrubbed the internet as much as they could for Patrick. So for example, he had accounts in inappropriate websites. So he had logins to these inappropriate sites, right? And then in some of them, he also had like his credit card information, right? And so then because he would, in certain circumstances, type something out like a review, you could Google like a screen name and then see, nobody would know that was Patrick. But when I started learning all of this, I Googled it and I Googled him, and I just wanted to make sure there were no videos. There wasn't any whatever. I just trying to kind of see, like, is there a digital footprint, right? And so one of the things we wanted to do was shut down the accounts in the inappropriate websites, but I didn't want him to do that because I didn't want him to go back in and log in, right? And I didn't want to see them. I didn't want to do it myself. So we Googled like a company, and Patrick sent them, these are the sites I'm aware of. These are the logins that I can remember. Can you do it for me? And they went in and they scrubbed it, and they scrubbed as much as they could off the internet, and deleted all of his accounts and all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of reasons that you might do things like that. Like, hey, get my credit card information out of there, get my name association out of there, delete the account so I don't have access to it, all sorts of reasons, right? So there's a lot of stuff. There's like the payment apps on the phones that were used, all sorts of things. So I think when you understand like what were the patterns, what were the behaviors of your partner, then you can make some of these decisions. And, do I need to cancel a credit card and start a new one? Do I need to completely change my phone number? We did that. He got a new phone so that he wouldn't get some of the text messages that he used to get. We changed his email address, deleted his old one, shut it down, started a new one. Also, when I did that, I set him up as a woman. So we made him a Gmail account, and I set it up as a female in the bio, or whatever you call it, the information that they get. And guess what? Because he's no longer clicking on things, and he is set up as a woman, and we have a new email, he doesn't get any inappropriate spam anymore. So a lot of those things are kind of, extra level stuff. But like I said, like we took it really seriously. We set the guardrails and the support so high. And so I think that's reasonable. I think today he's in a place where he could see something, he could be exposed to something, and nothing bad would happen. But I also think that it was extraordinarily important that we viewed it almost as life and death situation with how seriously we were taking it in the beginning. And I think if the addict is serious about wanting to change, they will be receptive to that level of support and that level of boundaries. So changing passwords, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of situations where that would be important. Like I mentioned the iPhone parent controls. I have the password for that. He has to come to me periodically and go, hey, I'm going on a business trip. Can I download this because it's a travel, blah, 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 whatever it is, right? Actually, the other day, I unlocked it one night for him because he needed the internet for something and forgot to lock it back down. He had the internet for like 3 days and everything was fine. So anyway, my point is higher earlier is going to be safer longer. That's my opinion about that. Should the recovering partner share all passwords to electronics? Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. There should not be a password or a bank account or an email or a phone or a piece of technology that your betrayed partner does not have access to. If you are going to be in a healthy relationship after something like addiction and betrayal, the level of vulnerability, transparency, and honesty that you have to be willing to accept in your life is through the roof. You cannot have a secret in your life anymore. You cannot have a credit card that she does not know about. You cannot have a social media login that she doesn't know about. There's nothing in your life that can be a secret if you want this to be successful and you want to regain her trust. I'm just going to put it out there that way. So yeah, the recovering partner should share all the passwords to the betrayed partner, 1,000,000%. And there are probably a lot of accounts that need to be shut down flat out. Like you just don't have access to them. And maybe at some point you get it again. But if there was like an algorithm issue, and Facebook is usually fairly clean, but like let's say Facebook was something that was utilized, Facebook is gone. Maybe in 5 years you can get it back. You know what I'm saying? But like, okay, we're going back to analog. We're going back to the 90s. We're going back to the 80s. We're going to have to call people on the phone, whatever it might be. Like, I'm sorry that it's harder, but this is better. If it's going to help you be healthy, if it's going to help rebuild trust, like what do you want in your life? Do you want access to this thing that can cause pain to your partner? Or do you want to put the guardrails so high and life's a little bit harder, but it's manageable, right? Like we used to live like this. We used to not have all this technology. It really will be okay. It really will be okay. So I think whatever it is that helps someone get into sobriety and detox, and whatever it is that helps the betrayed partner recover and rebuild trust, then that's fine. All right. Next question here. Talking about empathy versus restitution letters and questions to guide each partner through those. So I will direct this one specifically to the What's Next course. So go to recoveryoucoaching.com, click on the What's Next course, and definitely get that if this is one of your questions. We do have some podcast episodes about the empathy and restitution letters. If you scroll all the way back to season 1, we kind of talk through some of those, but in the What's Next course, I actually specifically walk you through what each partner should be thinking about and what, how to write those. Like, how do you write the impact letter? But the basic idea is the impact letter is the betrayed partner's opportunity to really think through, how has this impacted me? Now, some betrayed partners are writing the impact letter 6 months after discovery, right? Some betrayed partners have tried a bunch of different things or have had trickle disclosures, and it's been like 3 years since the initial discovery, but they thought it was just a one-time thing. Then a couple years later, they found out more. And then in the past year, they realized that it was, so it's been a little bit more of a process. And so some people are writing an impact letter after the full therapeutic disclosure, and it's been like 5 years since they have discovered that this became a problem, and then it just sort of built over time. And so the idea is whatever point that you are at, that you have the opportunity to share, how has this impacted me mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually? How has it impacted my health, my sleep, my ability to trust? How did I view our relationship before I found this out? How did I view our relationship now? What does it make me feel about trust and love and beauty and relationships in the future? It destroys our life for a period of time. So describe that. You know what I mean? A lot of times I will encourage my partners to use visual analogies. Sometimes that's just easier. it's just easier to describe physical wounds, like, if you're getting stabbed in the chest, or I think in my impact letter, I said something like he had planted all these tiny little bombs that went off, and something to that effect, right? So think about the emotions that this has made you feel, and then also I like people to include like visual analogies of that relate to how that made you feel, because sometimes it's like saying things in a couple different ways helps people really, really understand. So yeah, I would definitely check out the What's Next course, because I break all of that down and give you specific things to think about. That link is in the show notes, and it's also on recoveryoucoaching.com. The restitution letter is the addict's opportunity, or the betrayer's opportunity to, hey, we've gone through disclosure and I've told you the truth, and now I have heard how it has impacted you. And basically, this is their opportunity to demonstrate empathy and take full responsibility for the pain that they have caused, and say that out loud to you. So they've heard the impact letter at this point, and they internalize that, and they create the restitution letter that essentially says, I understand how you feel, and I think this is how you feel, and they communicate that to you. And then also, this is my plan for recovery and how I'm never going to hurt you again, kind of is the idea there of making amends, apologizing, taking responsibility, and also communicating clearly, I understand what you said in the impact letter, and this is my interpretation of that, is really, I think, an important piece of that. Okay, the last question I'm going to address today is, how do you reconcile the addict's behaviors versus their attitudes, i.e. doing all the right things of their own free will but resenting it? I would say if they're resenting it, they're not really doing it of their own free will. I mean, they are, right? Obviously, like, you can't control them, right? But I would say they're doing it, but they don't really want to be doing it if they're resenting it, right? So like they're choosing, but they're going against, like they're fighting internally within themselves. And for the betrayed partner, that is information. You should not be, like, there should not be an addict that is resisting the process, because that is information to you that they really don't want to be doing it. So I really think that their attitude and their behavior, it needs to match. So if you're going to rebuild trust with someone, if you're considering staying in a relationship with someone, you need to see that their words match their attitude, matches their actions, right? Like all of it needs to be cohesive. Think about addiction and how it has so much lying and manipulation and qualifying and minimizing and just all of this, like it's so unhealthy, right? Like they do not live in reality. When somebody is moving towards health, everything then becomes aligned. Integrity is when you have a value system that you are living your life out of, and the person you want to be is actually the behaviors that you are exhibiting in life. And addiction is often not that, right? Like Patrick shares a lot, like he always wanted to be a good person. He always wanted to be a nice person. And he was engaging in these behaviors that were not nice. And they were objectifying to people, and they were harmful for himself and for others and for me. And so the process of recovery was he wanted to be this person of integrity. And then the moving through the recovery process got him to the place where he was behaving with integrity, right? And so I think in a question like this, when they're doing the right things, but they're resenting it, resentment for doing the right thing is like a huge red flag. A huge red flag. Why are you having a bad attitude about doing the right thing? You know what I mean? Like if you just got caught and you realize how much you have harmed another human being, and you have the opportunity to make that right, this person that you have dedicated your life to and say you love and have made a commitment and a vow and an oath to love and protect and to be with and to spend and share your life with, if you have done something to harm them, and now you are resenting having the opportunity to help them heal, that is a red flag. Someone that wants to recover will do whatever it takes, period. If someone wants to recover and they are handed the opportunity, they will do it. So for the betrayed partners out there, I think it's really, really important. At the beginning, we were talking about the masculine and feminine, and we were talking about, controlling versus, supporting your partner and that sort of thing. And I think it's really important that you have a timeline in your head, because here's where we can't keep extending that, right? We can have all the compassion and empathy and understanding, oh, my partner had a really rough childhood and they experienced abuse and they experienced sexual trauma and they were exposed to pornography at an early age. Yes, 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 yes. And I have so much compassion and I get it and I understand and I am sorry and we love you. We can deeply love someone, and that is not an excuse as an adult to keep harming me. And it is not an excuse as an adult to be handed the resources to have a healthier life and to reject it or to do it, but action only. So you're going to therapy, but you're not getting anything out of it because you don't really care. It's not an excuse for reading a book and then not actually absorbing the information and being unkind to your partner. It's not an excuse for, okay, I'm technically not looking at pornography, but I really wish I was. I'm technically not masturbating, but now I'm mad at you because you're not having sex with me because I hurt you and traumatized you. Garbage. Stop being selfish. You have an opportunity to do the right thing. If someone is being resentful of making amends and doing the right thing, that is a huge red flag. Now, as a betrayed partner, where are you on the timeline in this? Is this 30 days in? Are they going through withdrawal? Because I will say, as I mentioned earlier, 30, 60, 90 days, going through the detox period, like their emotions are going to fluctuate because their dopamine is rebalancing. Maybe they haven't learned in therapy how to regulate their emotions. Now, I want to asterisk here. It doesn't mean you have to tolerate being verbally abused, or you don't have to tolerate being, you don't have to tolerate their emotions. It's absolutely fine for you to leave the room, to say, I'm not going to tolerate this, to set boundaries around how you're treated. And if they're going through the detox process, they probably are going to have these ups and downs and roller coasters. Okay. But let's say you're like 2 years down and you're like, hey, like technically they are sober, but man, they're not being nice to me. They've never expressed empathy. They've never taken ownership. They're resentful. They go to therapy every week, but they're resentful, and they come home and I hear about it. I think the timeline of when this type of behavior is happening and what you're experiencing may come into consideration with that. But in generally, I would just say the addict's behavior and their attitudes and the way, like the person that they want to be, if they are moving towards health, all of those should be in alignment. And anytime those are not in alignment, and specifically anytime it is still causing the betrayed partner, it's harming their ability to rebuild trust, or it is triggering them, or keeping them in a state of trauma as opposed to helping them heal, then this is going to be a huge, huge red flag. So I don't know if that answered the question. I hope it did. There was kind of, again, I try to answer in ways that, if this is happening, this is sort of a generalized answer for everybody. But I always am going to recommend that, make sure you're talking to people that know you, that know your story, that can take more details into consideration when answering these questions. And if I missed something, please resubmit questions so I can maybe hit it from a different angle. But thank you for those who submit questions. There's always a link in the show notes that says Recover You Feedback, so that we can hear, what sort of episodes it is that you enjoy. What do you like about the podcast? What questions can we answer? What would you like to hear more of? So if you haven't ever clicked that, feel free to click it. And we will do some episodes answering your questions. And then make sure, if you haven't already, to take a moment to go to Apple Podcasts, scroll down, and leave a review. We absolutely love hearing those reviews, and we appreciate you so much. So I hope this episode was helpful. Thank you so much for listening. Every day is a new opportunity to choose health and freedom. Make that choice today, and we will see you next week. Woohoo! If you're listening to this, it means you've made it through an entire episode. Part of recovery is spending time engaging in healing and self-growth activities. We are thankful that you chose our podcast to be one of those activities today. Make sure you reward yourself for that accomplishment. If you've enjoyed this episode or this podcast, we would love to hear from you. Please take just a few moments to leave a rating and review, letting us know your experience with Recover You. We not only love hearing how these episodes are helpful, but ratings and reviews help others just like you who are searching for recovery information and support find the podcast too. We can't wait to hear from you. See you next week.